Hi YouTube. Yesterday I uploaded a video talking about the Bible-thumping Wingnut's recent upload where he discusses the gang rape of Monica Cora and how it relates to absolute morality and atheistic morality, etc. And I have to say I'm really enjoying the conversation that's taking place on the comment section of that video. I never really meant it to be a jumping off point for a discussion on secular morality, but that's kind of what it's become, and I'm really pleased with that because that's actually a topic I've wanted to delve into for quite some time. And to that end, sometime this weekend I'm going to upload a video where I clarify my position on a few things, make a few corrections, and deal with some of the sloppy language that I used in that video. It's part of the problem with making ad-lib videos, of course, is I got to go in and clean up my own mess sometimes. And I realize that some of the terms I use cause some problems in the comments section, so I'd like to clarify those. Although I don't necessarily think that's always a bad thing. Sometimes it gives us an opportunity to focus on some definitions where we might not have done otherwise, and it can lead to a more clear and concise discussion. And as Tabletop Joe said, I think on the comments section of that video, the more people involved in the discussion, the better, and I couldn't agree more. The topic of this video, though, is something I actually, in watching the Bible-thumping Wingnuts video again last night, I realized I missed a very important thing, and I think it's a key to point it out. During that video, he talked about how he's a sensitive guy and how he's very much emotional about, when it comes to other people. And I understand that. I expressed in my video, I'm very much the same. I think, however, there's a disconnect when it comes to that sentiment and the morality of what he was discussing. So, for instance, if he were to ask, was the gang rape of Monica Cora absolutely wrong? And I think the question I would have for him would be, well, why is it absolutely wrong in your worldview? Because the sentiments he was expressing were actually almost a secular morality. He was expressing concern for the victim. And, you would hear secularists explain or define their morality by saying, I can empathize with the victim, or I think it's important for the human race to continue. So, murder is wrong because if everyone murdered everyone, there'd be no one here, and so therefore murder is wrong. Or I can empathize with the victim of a violent rape because I wouldn't want to be violently attacked, and so I can extend that out to other people, therefore it's wrong. And this was kind of the sentiment that the Bible-thumping Wingnut was expressing, the true, genuine, emotional understanding of how terrible those events must have been and how awful it would be to suffer such a trauma. But that's not why it's wrong according to his worldview. That worldview is not so concerned about how the effects of our actions affect one another, but how it reflects upon God. So Cy ten Bruggencate would say something like, sin and immorality are wrong, not because of a value judgment on the victim or the person at the other end of these moral actions, but because they reflect incorrectly on the nature of God, that we're created in his image. So, for instance, to lie is wrong because we're created in God's image, and God is not a liar. So to lie is to sort of represent God as a liar. And that he extends that to all the other sins and immoral acts. So when the Bible-thumping Wingnut is talking about how upset he is for Monica Cora and how awful that is, he really should, if he's being consistent with his theology, he should really be expressing his outrage and his emotion and his sadness for how this reflects upon God, how this reflects upon the deity that these three men did this. And so I think not only is it inconsistent, but it illustrates the reasons why we can't use a theistic morality as a basis for any kind of moral framework for society. Because I think our moral frameworks need to deal with how the effects of our actions impact one another, not God, who apparently should be able to take care of himself. And, and that's not to even mention some of the other aspects, right? That it's not really an objective moral standard, as I mentioned in my previous video, or the fact that there are so many different doctrines and so many interpretations of the various scriptures that we end up with all these different value sets, multiple value sets, and that doesn't provide a lot of utility for us to sort of come up with a consistent set of moral guidelines. And, I think it's interesting to illustrate that. I've been watching the rollout of Bill O'Reilly's newest book, Killing Jesus, and how the controversy that surrounds that book is all coming from fellow theists, right? The people who are telling him that he got this wrong and that he didn't focus enough in this area and that he's going to hell, well, these are all theists. It's not secularists that are attacking him in this fashion. And so I think that illustrates the point that you can't really have a theistic basis for morality, because there's too much infighting. They can't agree with one another. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I just see a customer walking up, so it's time to go back to work, and hopefully look forward to a video this weekend clarifying a few points. I very much look forward to this conversation on secular morality. I think it's the right place to go. Until then, thanks very much for watching.